Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek Discovery Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2. They're basically one big pilot. I mean, they've got different titles, but I'm not really sure why. The first half is called The Vulcan Hello, and the second half is called Battle at Binary Stars. Or The Binary Stars, pardon me. So we'll start spoiler free because it is it's the start of a new show, it's a pilot, so we like to start spoiler free, give you a sense of the quality, if it's worth watching, that kind of thing, and then we'll warn you about halfway through before we go into spoilers and heavy plot details. And in this case, there is actually a lot to spoil because I feel like the entire premise of the show after this episode was held back.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I've heard people already talk about this as a prologue to the actual show. This is kind of like a prequel movie, and then the actual show starts at episode 3, and I can kind of see that, because I feel there's going to be a time jump as well.
Yeah, especially with, key characters that weren't in this episode, that people that we knew were in it from trailers, cast announcements. Yeah. Just nothing in this.
And yeah, I know some stuff just because there was a trailer for the rest of the season that was like after these two episodes. Like,
right,
here's
I haven't
the rest.
seen that yet.
I don't think you don't have to, but it's just there was just a couple little tidbits I'll bring up when we're in spoilers to talk about where I may be going stuff. But it was mostly stuff I'd kind of predicted anyway. But obviously we'll save that for after. So this is exciting. Obviously, for anyone who is already on our channel, you'll know that we're currently working our way through the original series of Star Trek. We're early season 2 right now. We're working our way through, and the plan is to do the whole thing. And by the whole thing, I mean the original series, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and we'll already have done that. But by the time we get there, this show will be finished. This will be like, even if it goes 7 seasons, we'll be done with this by the time we finish the rest of those shows.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that's happening. So we've been doing that. So. And obviously we'll do the movies when they slot in at the right places. But so this is fun for us, just in the sense that we're doing a new Star Trek show. No one's seen this yet. This is fresh.
It's different, isn't it?
Off the assembly line, and it's probably the slickest looking show that maybe exists right now. I don't know if you felt the same way, like watching this and just feeling
it's definitely. I think the space stuff reminded me a lot of The Expanse.
Yeah, I'd go one step, because obviously at The Expanse, whenever we talk about that, we always compliment the space stuff and we say it looks very good. It looks probably the best space on TV's ever looked in terms of like ships flying around and that kind of thing. I will go one step a little bit further and say this is maybe a bit better, just in terms of the effects.
I think it's got a little bit more budget, and I think it does a little bit more inventive stuff with the space.
Because most of this episode's set at this one location in space, which is next to these binary stars, as the second half title would tell you. And it's very bright. There's all this light coming towards the ship, and there's like an asteroid field, and or maybe not asteroids, but
it's gorgeous. Basically.
Yeah, it's just really, really pretty stuff, and combine that with the music and just kind of some of the different species on the bridge and stuff. I've also heard people say it's kind of like Star Trek crossed with Mass Effect, and there's definitely.
I think we said that at that first trailer.
I think we did, but I was really feeling it as I was watching this. I was getting
especially there was a certain point where I was like, oh, okay, this is really Mass Effect.
It's Saru, who's Doug Jones's character. He's like an alien species, because of course he is. Doug Jones doesn't play human beings. He never does. Why would he?
That'd be boring, wouldn't it?
But his voice, it was really reminding me of someone from Mass Effect. I think it was
it's the Solarians, isn't it?
Solarians, yeah, the doctor from the second game.
Yeah.
It was reminding me of him a lot. The voice. Hell, maybe he voiced that character in Mass Effect. I don't know.
It's that slightly higher pitched, a little bit, a little bit quicker than you'd expect the sentence.
Yeah. So we got that. Even the aliens themselves, like the planet we see near the start, there's like this alien in a sort of robe at the end of that sequence that just looked really like, oh yeah, they'd never done that. Even the shows in the 90s wouldn't have done that, because it's just so unhuman-like, and it's, so yeah, effects across the board are really good. Visually, it's stunning. My only complaint visually would be that it maybe abuses the Dutch angles just a little bit too much.
Yeah. Quite possibly. I feel like that's something that might calm down after this pilot, though.
It might. But no, it was all over the place. In fact, I will say it's not full J.J. Abrams, but definitely some of the lens flares they're in there a little bit.
I think visually it's very influenced by those movies.
Yeah, yeah. So there's definitely those things going on. Um, Other notable thing is we have obviously Klingons are kind of the opposing force here, and seemingly will be for the season. And we have entire scenes with the Klingons in their ship that is in Klingon, the language, and it is subtitled.
Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting choice.
I like it in theory more than I do in practice.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
I think in practice, because Klingons are always shouting their language, it made the scenes feel very repetitive. And even though the subtitles were like, I'm someone who watches a lot of foreign films, right? I'm used to reading subtitles, and I was almost having a hard time focusing on them because we're just shouting constantly, and it was hard to. I don't know.
No, I know what you're saying. It's like, okay, I like it from the perspective of this feels right. Like this feels
Yeah.
like this is what it should be doing. But like you say, there's no. It's hard to get a range of emotion or
Yeah.
even just inflection.
And of course, that's one thing to talk about is the Klingons look different than they ever have. They're certainly closer to what we think of Klingons as opposed to the original series, but that's where it gets really murky because this is set before the original series. This is about 10 years before the original series, if I remember
I think
correctly.
that sounds about right.
So it's really close, which is much closer than Enterprise. Enterprise is like 100 years or something like that before the original series. That's way. Enterprise is meant to be like when. Oh, I've not seen it, but I think that's like space flight's just starting to become more common, kind of thing. Like, or
Yeah.
maybe just after that phase. That's when Enterprise is. But yeah, so the Klingons do look different. Again, the production value for them looks great. Their ship looks great. All their costumes look just really highly. It looks like a movie. Let's be honest here. It
does,
looks like a big budget movie.
It really looks incredible. Can't sell that enough.
The look for the Klingons don't bother me. I know some long-time fans are miffed by it. I'm not particularly fussed.
I think this is one of those things where I'm not a continuity wonk when it comes to Star Trek because I don't have that attachment. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm okay with it as long as this is good.
Yeah, I think honestly what bothers me more for continuity's sake is the fact that all the technology seems a bit more slick than it did in the original series, and it's like
It does. It does. It's one of those things though where if this was bad, that would be another thing to really pile on.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if it's good, you're kind of like, okay, whatever.
Oh, it's not a deal breaker by any means, but it's because at the very least the communicators and the guns, the phasers, they definitely looked a bit more higher budget than the original series did, but it's still the same designs.
Yeah, it's very recognizable.
So I'll give them that. I like the Starfleet uniforms actually. I think they look cool.
Yeah, they're nice.
I like
Yeah.
them.
I like that we still got the same sound effects on the bridge.
I do. And actually, Joe, I was not prepared for because maybe the new movies did have this. I can't remember, but certainly when I heard just some random, she gave an order and some random guys like recalibrating
Yeah.
calculations or whatever. Like it was the Star Trek mumbo jumbo you hear in the bridge, and it was just like, oh, I feel like I don't think the original or the new movies had as much of that. I don't remember it anyway.
No, I don't remember much of it either. Kind of just did things.
Recalibrating instruments. We'll recalibrate them again. Recalibrating instruments. There was some of that dialogue going about, and it just made it feel, as much as a lot of the visuals weren't feeling very Star Trek, that a little bit of that was going a long way to make it feel a bit more.
Yeah, like I say, it was like those sorts of just mumbo jumbo was a good way of putting it, wasn't it? Like that sort of just random dialogue that kind of, okay, that feels natural. Little sound effects. It's like, okay, that's what I expect to hear on the bridge.
And in terms of the ship, just the fact that the elevator to get into the bridge is in that same corner as the Enterprise.
Yeah, and obviously just the design, like the design of the ships, even.
Yeah, I do like the design of the Shenzhou, which is the ship here.
Yeah.
It looks. And this is the funny thing is we know the Discovery. Before we watched it, we know that the Discovery is the name of the main ship in the show. So it's not a spoiler to say that's not going to be the Shenzhou is not the main ship going forward. But certainly in this first double episode,
Yes.
it is the main ship we're on. And yeah, I like the design well enough. It feels like the Enterprise style, but it's not the exact same kind of thing. Like instead of the bit at the back going up, it goes down, and it's
Right, but you look at it, just from the outside, and immediately go, yeah, that's a Star Trek ship.
Yeah. So we talked about, which was we'll talk about characters a little bit. So this is where I do think this first double does suffer from pilotitis.
It does.
And it's funny because I don't know what we expected going in. Because on the one hand, it's a Star Trek show, which is, you know, have always been network shows, and obviously it's also coming kind of from CBS, but not really.
Yeah.
But it's also a streaming show. So what's it going to do in terms of that? You know,
and we were told it's going to be fully serialized.
Which, to be fair, it does feel like it's going to be fully
yeah.
serialized. It doesn't feel like it's going to be Creature of the Week at all. We have a cable style opening titles. You know, it's like it goes to the.
Yeah.
What's the best way I can do it? Because there's a style I think of. That's the cable opening title sequence style.
I agree. I think of it as a series of still or slow moving images,
but not faces. It's never the old network TV where it's the actors' faces. Never that.
Like designs relevant to the show.
Yeah, and it's slow paced. I will say I think it's okay for what it is. I don't think it fits necessarily with what I feel like Star Trek should probably have. I feel like the music's too low key, I think.
Yeah, I think it's nice when it's when it does the references to the original stuff. Like those bits feel like okay, that's nice, but there's like a minute or so in the middle that's kind of just filler.
I guess like. I guess I just kind of wanted, because I think all of them so far, all the shows before this, I mean, I'm not sure about Enterprise, but I know the other ones all have, they all kind of start with a bit of narration, kind of like, you know, the space, the final frontier, but like, they don't all have the same one, I don't think, but they all have that, and then the dun 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 dun, you know, that bit plays, and it plays here at the end, like, it comes at the end of the music, but I was like, nah, you should put that at the start, and had a little bit of dialogue. Or monologue.
No, I agree. There's a reference to it at the start, but then it goes into it properly at the end, and it's like the middle section. It's like, okay, this is fine. I'm gonna, I'm not gonna skip it or anything. I'll sit here and watch it.
What's funny though is that I feel like it's really slow paced, and then the final little note to wrap it up as the director credits on screen feels really rushed.
No, you're right. It does.
I know that's a petty little complaint, but it bugged me. Especially when I noticed it the second time, because the first time it's like, okay, maybe I'm just taking it in, maybe I'm not, but the second time, like, oh no, it's bugged me again. It's definitely annoying me. The pacing of that last little note's off.
Yeah, but ultimately it's an opening theme, so it doesn't really matter that much, does it?
Nah, it's not a big deal. Anyway, so Pilot-itis. Well, first of all, it's got the Netflix ratio, which is not a Netflix show, but I call it that because Netflix started using it.
Popularized it, hasn't it?
A few years ago, yeah. So it's got that ratio, and like I say, it feels super expensive. It feels more expensive than any Netflix show I've seen.
Yeah, it's up there. I dread to think how much this cost them.
I think I read like 8 to 9 million per episode, which isn't even the highest of all time. But it's certainly getting results.
Still hefty.
Oh, it's hefty. Yeah. I must say it's not big. It is big.
No, it's hefty, but like you say, they're really pushing the budget for what for what that is. It looks like more.
They got cheap actors. That's my first thought. Cheap actors.
No, that's fair. If you look at the entire, cast list, there's only a couple of like real names in it.
Yeah, I mean, and Jason Isaacs, who's not in these first couple episodes, but he's a name. He's not huge. He's not like a big superstar, is he? He's who he is.
It's fair.
So, so when I say Pilot-itis, what I mean is some elements feel a little bit rushed, especially the characterization of Michael, who's our main character. She's the first officer on the ship. Michael, because in the future, all names are gender neutral. That's the reason for it.
Why not?
I read that today. I thought that was a nice little touch. I needed explained, really. Like, whatever.
The first time I heard it, you do a double take just to check you heard it right.
Yeah, was it Michaela? Was it Michelle?
Yeah, just to check, and I was like, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm someone who watched The Angel, which had a female character named Fred. You know what? I'm good. Which, by the way, was the hit television show. There was the spin-off to the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Good.
Every goddamn time.
I had to do it because I missed one on the news and people pointed it out and I felt terrible.
I know. I was so pleased that you missed it. It was such an easy one as well, wasn't it?
We talked about Elijah Dushku and I never mentioned Buffy. How
I know.
How did I do that?
I was going through that news article. Just I'm not saying anything.
Oh dear. So her characterization is a bit rushed. There's a lot of we'll talk about more of this in the spoilers so we can talk about details, but there's a lot of controversy online. There's a lot of people who don't like her character all that much. I wouldn't describe me in that boat. I think she's a flawed character, certainly, intentionally so, given where it goes.
Right, but it's one of those where I think I see what the journey is.
Yeah, I can see what the journey is going to be for the rest of the show. Now, I think some of the elements in this feel rushed, but it may not be a big deal because it's just a setup for what the actual character arc is going to be.
That's a different complaint, though, isn't
Yeah.
it? I wouldn't say I dislike it. Like I say,
Yeah.
flawed, certainly. But
my favourite character right now is actually Saru. I really like him.
Yeah, definitely.
He's super nervous. He's like scared of everything. He's got a little bit of C-3PO kind of in there, kind of vibe.
I can hear it.
Yeah, I like him, and just to rest it, just in case you're thinking, oh, what characters aren't going to come back for the rest of the show? No, he was in the trailer for the rest. He's around. We're getting more of him.
I think that would have been obvious just based on, okay, you're putting someone in a spotlight in this episode who's also in alien makeup.
Yeah, that's fair.
Why bother designing all that and going through that effort just for 2 episodes?
Yeah, no, that's fair. So yeah, some elements a little bit rushed. There's some science and logic stuff later on, especially in the second half, that was kind of like, okay, that's bullshit. I'll go along with it, but it's bullshit.
Kind of have to just go with it, and yeah. But I'm kind of, again, it's one of the things, I'm used to that in these sorts of things.
But it's especially when they point out something. They use it for a reason in another scene, and then they do something that actually completely goes against what they said. A couple of scenes later, that's when it really bothers me. It's like, okay, you actually made a point of telling us X thing, and then did something that doesn't work with it. So
it's one of those things where they tell you so that they can break the rule, so then it seems impressive that they're breaking rules.
Oh no, this one isn't that.
No, but usually that's what it is.
Yeah, sure, but no, this was.
This one's just a mistake.
Yeah, this was just poor writing, I think. So I do think the writing in general for this first double is a little bit on the rough side. Some things feel a bit rushed. I thought the opening scenes on the desert planet were very clunky in terms of the dialogue. It was very exposition heavy, like overly stating obvious facts that they wouldn't say out loud like that.
Yeah, it's more, hey, this is a pilot, we need to get this information out there, and we don't have a better way to do it, so we'll just say it.
Michael, you've been my first officer for 7 years. I'm like, why would you say that?
I know.
It just comes out feeling a bit forced, and which is why I use the phrase pilotitis. I don't know if we coined that term or if we just got it from somewhere else, but I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. We've been using it for so long that I don't remember.
But pilotitis, that's kind of what it suffers from. So the Klingon scenes are repetitive and do kind of drag it down a little bit. The pacing does feel a little bit too quick, and these episodes were a little bit shorter than I was expecting. And
I wonder if the first one at least is a symptom of, they wanted to air it on broadcast TV, so they wanted it to fit nicely in that time slot. So they did that one specifically to that. That doesn't explain episode 2, of course.
Well, I wonder if it's more a case of they had 14 episodes and the first one was longer. It was 80 something minutes, and then they went, oh, we'll chop that one up and put the first chunk of it out as the broadcast episode. Maybe that's the reason for it.
Could be.
Because remember, it got extended to 15 episodes.
Ah, you're right.
So I wonder if that's maybe something to do with it. Like, I don't think it was. I think it was 13 before, or maybe we didn't know what the number was before. But it definitely got extended to 15, and I'm wondering if how they've decided to cut up this first one's kind of a reason for it.
That makes sense.
We didn't actually have more episodes. It was just, no, we chopped this one in half.
Yeah, that'll feel quite annoying come the end if that was the case.
Yeah, especially since we're only getting 7, 8 episodes, and then
break,
and then we start the next chunk in January. So, anything else before we go into spoiler territory you want to talk about?
I just want to mention as a positive to the Klingon stuff. I did like the culture and mythology stuff of it. I like a lot of the ideas, even though, like I say, it doesn't work in execution because it's all monotone and it's kind of hard to focus because of that. I do like the ideas of what it's doing.
I mean, actually, to wrap up the spoiler-free section, we should probably just kind of say if we liked it or not, because we haven't really done that yet. We've just been kind of...
No, we usually start with that, don't we?
We've just been picking at different things and, positives and negatives, but did we actually overall like it? Are we excited a bit more of it?
I'd say, yeah. I think it's definitely got some problems, but most of them, from my opinion, seem to be these are problems to do with it being a pilot. So I'm expecting those to kind of get ironed out as it goes along.
Yeah, I think when you sum up my thoughts on it, it is very much pilotitis. Now, obviously there's a debate. A lot of people don't feel like it's actually Star Trek. It feels too on Trek. It feels too actiony, and it feels this and that.
That's fair.
And I think there is an element of that. I do think it's more Trekky than, say, the first two of the new movies, because there's a point of this episode where there's actually a debate about how to tackle the situation because they want the diplomatic resolution, and that feels very Star Trek to do that.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I don't think the whole thing as a whole feels overly Star Trek in that sense. But yeah, it goes back to pilotitis. I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of rough things here, but it definitely feels like an old school network show in the sense that I feel like this could find its footing in like half a season, or maybe even season two. Like, this could be like an okay first season, but then season two, it hits what it's really trying to do.
It's really one of those things though where most of my problems are like, okay, this is rushed. There's a lot of exposition, but the things that really stick out to me that are rushed are things that are clear that it's to do with it being a prologue.
Yeah, this is a very even more so than a regular pilot. This is a very separate prologue to the rest of the show.
So it kind of feels like, okay, they had to get these things in these episodes, so that's why they're rushed. So when we get to episode 3 onwards and we focus on, like what the main show actually is, those problems hopefully shouldn't be there. Of course, they might still be rushed, and it's just a problematic writing. But hopefully they won't be.
But that's the thing. Even if it doesn't, though, this is exactly the type of show that takes time. Sometimes Star Trek: The Next Generation, from what I understand, doesn't get good till season 3. I think Deep Space Nine has a similar thing where it gets better and gets proper good in like season 4 out of 7, and it's like this is something that this franchise specifically has actually dealt with in the past, where it doesn't get good until later seasons, and well, that can be frustrating. And it has to be has to be good enough to begin with, but at the very least, I think the visuals and the action right now will be enough to keep me going.
Yeah, enough to carry it. And I do think season 2 is probably a safe bet, circumstances considered.
I think so. I think it's a safe bet for a number of reasons. I think the fact that they've got international deals for the entire planet, most of which with Netflix. I know Canada's got another provider, but they're still getting it at the same time. All these, all this money they're taking in from the world. I feel like season 2 is relatively safe because of that.
Yeah, that really offsets that budget, you have to imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And I think they're already bragging about their sign-ups to their service for CBS
All Access.
Well,
that's good, because I think that would have been the biggest concern, is it doesn't perform well enough in the US on their service. I think that was maybe where it might have faltered the most.
I think it will. I think it'll be the weakest market, funnily enough.
Yeah. Just because obviously it's this scenario of,
but this is the thing,
people really want to pay for this service for what is essentially right now one show.
But this is the thing: how many people actually have to for it to be a success to them? Especially because we talked about this a lot with Twin Peaks. Like, that got really low viewers, but it was also the biggest amount of sign-ups Showtime had ever had. So it's kind of this weird thing where it doesn't have to be anywhere near the same amount of people, because if even a fraction of the people who would have been watching it on TV are paying for the service, then it's actually making up for more.
Yeah, of course. So. And of course, with this being like the start of this service, any amount of people is the most this service has ever had.
Exactly. And they've got a few things planned, but it's not a lot. Like, they don't have a big number of things. And I also feel like this is the first original show for this service, at least I think it is.
To my knowledge, at least.
Do they really want it's definitely the biggest, if it's not the first.
It's definitely the flagship, if not the first.
And do they really want the press of, like, the first show they ever did, or the first big show they ever did, it doesn't even get a season 2? It was
I think in that scenario, it needs at least 3 seasons for them to save face, because even 2 seasons looks a bit weak. Whereas 3 is like, okay, that's respectable. You got a story out of that. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of why I'm thinking that at least a season 2 seems relatively safe to me. But yeah, so we'll get to spoilers. So full spoilers from this point on for episodes 1 and 2 of Star Trek Discovery. So yeah, this whole thing is a prologue to the main story, and it's all the start of this Klingon war. They've barely interacted with the Klingons in 100 years, and they find this device, this not a ship, but this Klingon thing out in this debris. They go and check it. Specifically, Michael goes and checks it, and she sees a Klingon. She triggers something, gets into a very quick fight where she ends up killing this Klingon in self-defense.
I did like that, actually. It felt very realistic in the sense that there was the shock and panic, and it was a quick scuffle. It wasn't, some drawn-out action sequence.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's fair. And basically, what the Klingons are doing here is they are this thing they're this device. It's a beacon. It's this big beacon because the Klingons are split into like 12, no 24 it was
24, yeah.
24 subdivisions, 24 factions, 24 clans, if you will, and basically this one Klingon, Tekuvna, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, some of these new names are going to be, take a little bit of time to get used to. But Tekuvna, he wants to unite the Klingons. In fact, one of my, as much as I had a problem with a lot of the Klingon scenes, just in terms of them be feeling very repetitive and not very engaging, the opening scene of the show was a Klingon scene, and I did like that one because it's basically him talking about, oh, we all have to unite because this enemy, this evil enemy that's spreading across the galaxy, spreading their message, and it all builds up to the end of the scene where he says, where they spread their message, and he's speaking in Klingon the entire time until he says this final line. They spread their message of, we come in peace. And I thought that was a nice payoff. That was like a nice build up, and then they're taking that as this evil message. Like this is an act of war. What they're saying to us.
It's this idea that Klingons hate peace. That's they don't want someone to come in peace. They want someone that they can destroy.
Yeah, so that was a nice subversion of what you'd expect, and it gave you a window into their mentality. And
yeah,
but so he wants to light this beacon to unite the 24 clans of the Klingons.
Yeah, because there's some prophecy.
Which is actually what my big logic problem actually with this is that during these very episodes, one of them on the bridge says that there's an outpost or there's like a station only 3 light years away, right? That's the nearest thing. It's three light years away, and we have to stay here and defend because we're the first line of defense between the Klingons and that, right? That was brought up in this episode, and yet this beacon of light is lit. And within like 20 minutes, all these Klingon ships appear.
It's magic light.
They just told me that the nearest thing was 3 light years away.
Yes, I know. I told you, it's magic light.
Okay.
It's magic light that travels at faster than light speeds. It travels at warp speed.
Okay, sure. I'm just pointing that out.
I'm agreeing. I'm just
pointing that out. And yeah, so we'll get into the details of how we get there, but I want to talk about kind of where we end up and where it's going for the show, because basically Michael, along the way, commits mutiny, goes against Captain's orders, and then comes up with the best idea how to deal with it once everything escalates, and then does the exact opposite thing, which basically 100% confirms that we're about to have a war with the Klingons.
Yeah,
she causes it.
Straight up starts a war.
Starts a war, and for her mutiny and for everything else she did, she, at the end of the episode, the final scene is a court-martial where she's told she's going to spend the rest of her life in prison. That's her. Yeah. She's gone.
Stripped of rank in prison.
And I'm like, okay, that is a ballsy ending to your first episode. Our main character is... So obviously I'm thinking, right, time jump. And then the trailer I saw afterwards kind of confirmed that, because obviously I'm thinking, okay, she's going to be taken out for some reason.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, then they're going to go, all right, we need you to come back. For whatever reason, it's something that she knows.
Yeah.
There's things in this that we know her past. It's like, okay, I get where they're gonna go with this roughly.
Yeah. So she, so in the little trailer for the rest of the season, it did show that she's like brought back out onto this Discovery ship later on, and the one little detail that was in the trailer that I really liked is that they're all looking at her, like, they all know her, like they all look at her like she's scum because of what she did. They all blame her for starting the war, and someone says to her, "Oh, like 8,000 people died in the first week of this war. Like that's how many like Federation officers went down." And she corrects her, says 8,221. Like she says the exact. So you get right away that Michael's guilty. She is counting every single number. She knows that figure, and I think that's why, as much as some of this episode is rushed, and she is kind of a screw up in a lot of ways. That's going to be part of her character, is that she has to...
she has to become better.
Because part of my worry is I was watching this episode and she commits mutiny. I mean, she has the Vulcan grip on the captain, amongst other things. And I'm like, man, if they just quickly like let this go and say, oh, it's okay you did that because it's for a good reason.
It would feel cheap, wouldn't it?
I won't buy it. But sure enough, at the end of the episode, now you're stripped of rank, you're going to prison. I'm like, okay, fair enough. You're taking it seriously.
And like you say in that trailer, people look at her. It has consequences, probably until you know, I imagine it'll be like end of season where she re-earns all everyone's respect for whatever reason.
If even then, like it
If even then,
could take
yeah,
longer.
I'm just kind of being optimistic there. It kind of seems like a nice point for the season.
So I think that's actually kind of impressive because we knew nothing about this, like any of this setup for what the rest of the season was.
No, they did a good job of everything we thought we knew was, to do with this pilot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we saw some clips of Jason Isaacs and stuff, which are obviously from later episodes. But in terms of her stuff, it was mostly these first two, so we never caught on to the fact that she stripped her rank and all everything else. Like her entire
Right.
motivation as a character, and that's why this feels like a prologue more than a pilot, because it's like, no, this is the backstory. Like we're not even at
It is,
the start
yeah.
of the show yet, really.
Yeah, and like I say, it's impressive because obviously we knew Jason Isaacs was a captain, so I was like, okay, so the captain here is going to die, and he's going to come in and replace her for whatever reason.
Which, by the way, when it came up saying special guest star Michelle Yeoh in the titles, it was kind of like, yeah, okay, she's buying it by the end of this.
And I'm okay with that. That makes sense. So I kind of half expected that based on trailers in the past.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, multiple captains never made sense.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. And yeah, and it makes sense why some of the crew of this ship will still be on the new ship because obviously they all get split up and go wherever and whatnot. But I do like the ending. I like that we have a character who has this redemption to go on. It's this, and it's funny though because people are like, oh, she's very reckless, and I'm like, well, yeah, but so was Kirk. I mean, Kirk was a pretty reckless guy.
Right? Yeah. No, she is reckless, and that's kind of the thing. She has to learn that being reckless cost thousands of lives. This is her fault, and she has to learn not to be reckless now.
I mean, thousands. By the time this war's finished, I mean, probably millions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extrapolate up as far as you wish.
Yeah, but like, this is like as about as serious as it gets, and it's funny because for a long time in the episode, she is actually right about most things, and it shows how much the captain trusts her when because after she sees the Klingon, she gets knocked out, and they get her back on the ship. And she storms out of sick bay when she wakes up, and she goes to the bridge, and she's like, "That was a Klingon. That's a Klingon device. There's Klingon ships out there." And by the way, this also seems to be the first time in the timeline that the Klingons have their cloaking techniques because they're all surprised when the ship just appears.
It's a brand new thing.
They're floored by this.
Even to the other Klingons, to be fair.
Yeah. But she storms out of the bridge and she's like, there was Klingons, and everyone's like, oh, you've hit your head, you've been radiation poisoning, you're sick, get back to...
This was something... They never really sent her back to sickbay, did they, after all this?
Oh, no, they did.
Did they?
The captain gave her an order at the end of the scene, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. You didn't see anything really of it, so I guess time just passed.
It was just a quick line, but yeah, it was
yeah. I guess because I didn't see it, I just forgot.
Because she says, oh, you need to get to sick bay because I need you back on the bridge ASAP.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So, but yeah, but everyone's kind of not believing her. Even the captain's like skeptical about this. We've not seen them in so long. Like we've had like one or two like sparse little sightings of them in the last
100 years.
But she looks her dead in the eye and says, "Captain, it's Klingons." And then she just immediately goes, right, red alert. And she just believes her. So this is the trust. It does at least a good job there where okay, right, we understand how much she trusts her, what the bond is like.
But that kind of highlights a problem for me. And again, it goes back to the exposition feeling rushed. Like, okay, yeah, you're telling me, 7 years, I trust you, you're all very good, but that moment showed it much more than any of that dialogue did, and it highlights the difference.
Absolutely, yeah. They could have taken the rest of all that stuff walking in the sand at the start. They could have just had be quiet, mostly, and not have it.
I like the moment at the end with the symbol.
Yeah, Starfleet symbol. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I get where you go. I get it. It's a nice moment. It's a good thing to start the show on, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. So. Obviously, if we're talking about Michelle, sorry, that's a weird slip there. The thing about Michael's character as well, of course, is we find out that she was raised by Vulcans. Her parents were killed in a Klingon attack, no doubt. So that gives her a personal thing. People actually question that in this episode. The question, is this a vendetta? Are you just, but she was raised by Sarek, who of course is Spock's father, which is why she's kind of Spock's sister in a weird way, thing kind of came up on the interwebs over time.
And I have to say, when I heard about that, I was a little like, it feels kind of shoehorning it in. When I heard about it at first. But I think it plays okay here.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that yet.
I'm more okay, well, I guess why did it have to be Sarek? But
Mm.
at the same time, I didn't really hate it. It was just like, okay,
Yeah,
it's fine.
it's not pissing me off yet, but I'm not necessarily in love with it yet either. It's kind
Yeah,
of
they might do something stupid with it in the future.
yeah. I do like forgetting that it's Sarek though. I do kind of like this idea that because she was raised by Vulcans, she's this kind of weird mix of like, yeah, she's a human being, but she's also been trained purely by logic, and she's been taught to think that way
Yeah,
most of her life until because we see that flashback of her coming on the ship, and she meets the captain for the first time, and she almost doesn't know how to give a compliment because she's been raised by Vulcans, like,
yeah.
and you see that kind of that kind of thing going, and they have that little moment at the end where they kind of compliment each other, and like she's like, "Oh, this is nice. Is this what human beings do? Oh man,
They're
I'm
missing
missing
out.
out." Yeah.
Yeah,
And I kind of appreciate that. I like that, and maybe that's why people, even on top of everything else, don't quite trust her. Like it's like the reason
she's
why
still somewhat of an outsider, even after all
yeah,
this time.
you were raised by Vulcans. You're not really one of us.
Yeah,
But much as she can't win because Vulcans will look at her and go, "You're not really one of us either because you're actually a human being." So
mm.
again, science fiction playing off, social
Yeah,
topics is not new by any means, but it should be there. It should be at the fabric of
yeah, and
the story.
especially in Star Trek, where that's essential to what that show always has been.
Yeah. Um, yeah, 'cause, I mean, fundamentally, you've got like two cultures who don't understand each other here, and like they don't understand how to. Because that's the whole thing. Is she calls Sarek and is like, "Hey, right, you've got like a truce with the Klingons. How did you achieve that? Like, how did we get to that point?" And it turns out it's because after the Klingons first destroyed a Vulcan ship, Vulcans learned, okay, well, we have to fire first, and because they kept firing first, that earned their respect because that was a language that the Klingons understood was
Yeah,
aggression.
and she even refers to it as a Klingon hello.
Yeah.
Like the idea that it's this show of force is like it's kind of the idea of some animals they butt heads.
Yeah, and obviously it's brought up, but that's against Starfleet, like
Yeah,
you know, protocol. That's against the Prime Directive. You don't fire first. We are peaceful.
yeah. Can't come in peace if you're gonna bomb
Yeah,
them.
exactly. And it'll be interesting to see where they go with this. Like, but will it be like, oh no, occasionally they're going to have to learn to like
It
go
it
outside the
feels
rules.
like wartime. Do they suspend things for wartime? That's kind of a very real
Yeah,
world
but
application of it.
is Michael going to learn that no, despite what she knows is right, you have to swallow your pride a little bit and do what's right because this is what our rules are. We have to still play by those rules and actually achieve within those parameters.
Mm.
Um,
I'm actually interested to see which way it goes with that because, like I said, I can see it going. You know, Starfleet suspending those rules because war, and that you can't have those get in the way. But then, alternatively, do they go? No, we still want to win this war, but keep our principles and fight within that.
well, forgetting the war though, but even just after that, like
Yeah,
when it's like does she learn that she has to play by the rules? Like I feel like that has to be
yeah,
part of her character.
yeah,
So they can't completely suspend all that stuff, otherwise, like, what is she even going to
yeah.
learn?
There's no lesson, is there?
Yeah, and that has to be part of her arc. Because as much as she wants redemption, as much as she feels guilty and it's weighing on her, I have to imagine like there has to be, other lessons to be learned along the way. Like she broke. So basically, as soon as the captain didn't agree with what she thought the best plan was, she she attacked her.
Yeah, yeah. She's got to learn to communicate better, which again essentially kind of boils down to the show is these races have to communicate better, and here it's okay. She didn't get her way, so she lashed out.
Yeah, yeah. And even though she had the best of intentions, it's because this is the thing. Most of what was going to happen would have happened anyway without her involvement. Most of it
Yes.
until she killed Takovna.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Like, she herself said to the captain, "No, don't kill him. That makes him a martyr, and that makes this war unavoidable. If we capture him, then it's seen as a failure, and they all lose faith in each other. Because by this point, he's shown a fourth of strength. We've had the big space battle with all the ships firing at each other, which looked great, by the way, and." He sends them all back, go and prepare, go and talk to your rest of your Klingon people and come back, and we can win this war against the Federation, yada yada yada, and But they go, just the captain and the first officer go themselves, which I thought was a weird strategic choice. They beam onto the Klingon ship to get to Kovna to capture him, but of course the Klingons fight back.
Yep. I like that they at least, when they beam over, they've got the pistols out ready. That they're immediately they're ready for this.
Some red shots would have been useful, I think, though.
Yeah, probably would have been.
But for whatever reason, it's just those two, because I don't know.
I assume, because there's never really any dialogue that talks about the plan, but I assume it was more, no, it's a stealth mission. We're told their phaser is kind of old technology. Maybe there's limitations on like 2 people at a time.
I mean, transporters.
Yeah.
Teleporters, rather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, we only ever see it like 2 people at a time at most, I think.
Ah, but the phasers are the guns. That's why I'm...
Yeah. I misspoke, clearly.
That's why I'm clearing that up.
It's been a long day.
Aye. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, so they go over themselves, and of course they get attacked, and Kovna actually kills the captain. I've been avoiding her name because her name's hard to say. It's like Gero or something to that effect. But she gets stabbed. The Klingon stabs her, and Michael, just in the heat of the moment, fires a phaser at him and kills him. And immediately realizes, oh crap! I just did exactly what I said I shouldn't do. And
I wonder if part of this is, we talked about how she was raised not to be emotional. She was raised on Vulcan, and she was being logical.
She can't control her emotions, so they come out in bursts like this, where she can't.
Right, like we saw, when she first was emotional on the ship, and she was like, "Oh, this is nice." And it's like, okay, she kind of overextended herself, didn't really know how to deal with them. So she doesn't process them that well.
Yeah, I think, and I'm wondering as well if this incident, this guilt, will actually make her stop using her emotions again. Like, she'll try and bottle them up again. She'll try to not be emotional. She'll try to be completely logical.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Almost like she'll relapse.
Kind of. In a weird way, yeah. Because almost in an opposite way, though, because it's like she thinks it's dangerous, so she goes back to being clean. It's almost like the opposite of, like, if you're an alcoholic, being on the drink is bad, but in this case, being on the emotion is good. But she'll say, "Oh no, it can do bad things," and she doesn't understand that she has to control it.
It's ultimately things are okay in moderation.
Yes. So I think that'll be very interesting going forward. It's arguably the most interesting thing the show's got going for it right now, just in terms of characters.
It's why I actually think Michael's a very good character. Not, obviously very flawed, problems, but I think he's a good character in the sense that I see where the story is. I see what the growth is. It works for me in that sense.
Yeah, I don't know if she's super likable yet. And I think that's maybe part and parcel of the fact that she's not... Like, this show's going for a different tone. It's definitely going for something darker with her, where it's starting off in this really bad place, and we'll maybe get a hopeful kind of arc out of it, but it is starting in this place where it's like, previous captains have been... I mean, obviously Kirk is a very kind of action hero type character. Picard is not. He's more diplomatic, but he's more confident, he's more sure of himself, all those kind of things. Whereas she is more inherently flawed right from the get-go. Whereas that's why I think Saru, well, he's also flawed. Like, we latched onto him a bit quicker because he's just kind of likable and
he is, and I think that's it. People are maybe confusing likable and good. Like you can be unlikable and a good character. They're not mutually exclusive.
I don't think she is unlikable though. She's just not grown on as yet. I don't think. Like I think she needs more before, because so all of what she has in these 2 episodes is basically a plot setup, because we have to get to where we're going. Whereas Saru is more just, no, this is who he is. This is what he's like, and
he doesn't need much setup. He's just there. He just gets to say some nice things. And
the one little thing we do get is that his race were treated like cattle on his planet. Like, he was seen as this lower race that were just bred to sense death, and he says death is coming, and sure enough, lots of it is. So no, so I think there's potential there. I think if I'm summing up this pilot, it's that it is a bit rough around the edges. There's definitely problems with it. There's stuff that's rushed, but I can see the potential in there for where it could get really good.
I agree. I'm kind of almost giving it the benefit of the doubt on its problems because what I do like, I can see the seeds of a show I will love.
Yeah, and it's not there yet, and maybe it won't even get there for another season. But
and that's it. It's maybe it'll never get there. Who knows? It might never actually kind of grow out all its problems. It might never fully evolve into what it's meant to be. But what it is meant to be, you can see the seeds of it. You can see how it can get there. Just needs a bit of work.
Yeah, I do think the captain's kind of like underdeveloped because we know, like, because they knew she's going to be dead at the end of this, so she's just kind of what she is and no more.
Yeah, you get the bare minimum.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to her.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing Jason Isaacs captain because obviously get some actual development from him, presumably.
Well, this is obviously we will, but I think the one thing that I know about him so far, just from the trailer at the end, is that everyone's like, why is she here? Why did you bring her on board? So he's making this big weird decision to bring this prisoner on board for something. So at the very least, he's going to be a captain who thinks outside the box, or at least looks past his vendettas. Maybe is perhaps be a better.
Yeah, it might be more of a ends justify the means sort of thing. It's like I don't care what she's done. She's useful.
Yeah, it could be that. I mean, it's hard to say until we actually...
Yeah. I mean, speculation with absolutely no grounds, because I haven't seen the character at all yet.
Yeah, until we see him actually interact with people and justify his decisions. Like, who else is the crew? Because typically we end up having, like 7 or 8 main characters on these shows. So I wonder, like, obviously...
I can see it being a little smaller on this, just based on... it's a short-ish season. It's quite tight. It's very serialized.
Yeah, no, maybe, but I think it'll be more, though. It's not just going to be Michael, Saru, and the captain. I feel
I'm expecting a couple more, at least. I think maybe 5 would be main ones.
Yeah, I expect more people on the bridge that I'll know by name. But, maybe get more focus later on, where they get their own little plots or whatever. I like that when the sensors didn't work, they went to a telescope. Like, the captain just happened to have, like, an old-school telescope in our quarters.
That was nice.
And they used that instead.
Yeah.
I will say, one thing I hope the show does get to at some point is the idea of actually discovering things. Like, sort of finding new things. I mean,
arguably they discovered a war.
Sure. Sure.
I did think a moment I really liked was, at the end of the first episode where the fleets both arrive. And, I like the idea that the Klingons didn't activate the beacon until it's like, okay, they've sent their signal, they're coming, this is gonna work. And it's like, okay, and they all come in, it's like, okay, we can see this, and then you go, look, they're bringing an army.
Yeah, because they wanted that. They wanted to show the rest of the Klingons that, no, look at the Force, they're here with all these ships.
Yeah. One ship, that's nothing, that's not a threat. But they come with an army, it's like, okay, that's it, they're here.
Yeah, nah. But yeah, so Michael's shown to be very smart, but not...
She's capable, but inherently wrong on how she goes about integrating into the society.
Like I say, it goes back to her being drawn between both human and Vulcan in the way she thinks, that we end up with the worst of both worlds in a weird way. Yeah,
where obviously, ultimately, the goal for her character is to be the best of both worlds. You would
imagine. Which ultimately, fun enough, she's kind of the same but the opposite of Spock in a lot of ways. Because he's half human, and he has like a bit of both in him, and he sort of learns his humanity over time. Where she starts in the opposite place, but you would imagine she should end up in a similar kind of area. I'm curious as to what episode 3 is going to be, because episode 3 is technically going to be the first episode of the show.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to episode 3 in a sense that, okay, I'm excited to see what this actually is. I do have a little concerns that it will feel like it has pilotitis again, because we're introduced to, okay, here's the ship, here's the crew, and that's typical pilot problems.
On the upside, though, because we've already been introduced so much to the main character, it gives us more time for the new captain and for other...
Yeah, maybe actually giving them the whole episode devoted to them might feel a bit better.
The one thing I do hope, actually, is that it's a bit slower paced.
I agree, and I feel like it probably will be. I really do think this was too fast paced because they had to cram this prologue in. Whereas once we're in the actual story, it can breathe a bit more.
I could almost see not getting any more Klingon scenes, actually, with them on their own. I feel like the opening was to set up why they're fighting, and like theoretically now they could just be this unseen force that pop up and like
I think I'd prefer that. I think it makes it more effective if we're kind of in the same mindset as the crew here, where it's like, okay, what's going to happen next? Whereas this one, it was nice because okay, we get where this is going because we kind of get hints of the Klingons' plan. Whereas in future, I think I want to be with the crew where it's like, oh, this is a surprise attack. We have no idea what could happen at any moment.
Especially since I thought the Klingon scenes started to get really repetitive and droned on. So I kind of hope that's where it goes with this. Unless our characters are actually interacting with them, I don't really want to see them.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, we'll see. So let us know what you think of the episodes in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. We'll see you next time. Have you got any vanilla?